A new bill in the Senate is targeting a little known part of the food stamps law called the Restaurant Meals Program. This is the piece that lets you buy meals at McDonald's or Domino's or Wendy's or Jack in the Box or Subway with your SNAP benefits. Now, historically, a lot of people haven't even known that this loophole exists. We've talked about it a lot on this channel, so I wanted to talk to you about what's going on here because a lot of news outlets are actually getting this wrong. So today I want to talk to you about what this program actually is, what it does, who can use it, and most importantly, what this bill is trying to change. So as we dive into all the details here, I want to hear from you. Do you think that SNAP benefits should be able to be used at fast food restaurants? We've heard a lot of strong opinions on both sides, and as long as you keep the debate respectful, we'd love to hear your perspective on this as well. So drop a comment below and buckle up because we're about to dive into all those details. So the Restaurant Meals Program is actually not new at all. It's news to a lot of people, but it's not new. Congress created this exception in 1977 so that homeless people who had no kitchen could still get a hot meal using SNAP. Over time, the eligibility for that has expanded to elderly and disabled people as well, and their spouses in some states. The goal of this program is to let people buy hot prepared food when they don't have a kitchen or the ability to cook for themselves. But it's not available everywhere because states are allowed to choose whether or not they want to offer this particular program. They don't have to allow it, but some states choose to. So the most recent data shows that this program is currently available in Arizona, California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, Rhode Island, and Virginia. Now, that doesn't mean that it's available at every fast food restaurant in every single one of those states. In a lot of cases, it's only available in certain areas that have a high rate of homelessness or at very specific restaurants. In some states, it's only usable at, for example, Subways. So it's very, very specific because the state has to opt in and then each individual restaurant has to opt in. It's a whole big process. This program gets a lot of hate. We have heard so much about it over the years from people who I don't think really understand what it's for or what it does. I think a lot of people get images of big families going in and buying tons of pizza or burgers or whatever. But in reality, this is usually small groups, people who are homeless or elderly going in and purchasing a small meal that meets their needs because really SNAP doesn't go that far anyway. In fact, the most frequent restaurant in the lists of restaurants that accept this is Subway, in the fresh sandwiches and salads that they provide there. There are other big names on the list too, like Burger King, Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Domino's. Sometimes even sit-down restaurants like Denny's or Cece's Pizza have also participated in this program. At one point, I'm pretty sure I saw a Golden Corral on the list. But there are also a lot of smaller local restaurants that participate as well. It just depends on where you live because each individual address of a restaurant has to be approved. So it's not like all Jack in the Boxes in a town will be approved. Each individual location has to go through the approval process. It can get really confusing for people who are trying to use this program because one location in their area may not accept it, but then one a few blocks down might. It just depends. Now, of course, Senator Ernst finds this very objectionable. She said that from June 2023 to May of 2025, about $524 million in SNAP benefits were spent through the Restaurant Meals Program in those 9 states. Of that, more than $475 million went specifically to fast food establishments, according to the same data, which makes sense because as someone who's gone over and over and over the list of all the restaurants nationwide that participate in this program, far and away, most of those are fast food restaurants, including Subway. So now reporters are describing this as roughly $250 million per year in tax-funded fast food purchases, and of course about 90% of that spending is happening in California due to the large population, the statewide expansion, and the large fast food vendor list that they have there. In a lot of the other states, this program is only available in a couple of zip codes, maybe a part of a county. Some states that were on the list have maybe less than 10 restaurants that accept those benefits, so of course their spending is going to be substantially smaller. We put all the details over here if you like to geek out about numbers and things. So Senator Ernst introduced what she's calling the McSCUSE Me Act, which, I mean, this name is a little bit of a reach. Am I right? The full name for the bill is the McStopping Chains from Using SNAP EBT to Make Entrees Act, which feels like it had to be like a little intentional to hit that acronym. Sometimes they get really creative with these things. Anyway, this bill was introduced on November 20th, and the entire argument of this bill is that this program needs to be reformed. So she says that SNAP's original intent is nutrition, not nuggets. And of course, with all of the phraseology that was used in her reaction to this bill, a lot of news outlets are going crazy about it. There was a lot of sarcasm and fast food humor used in a lot of the phrasing that she used. But a lot of the reports I'm saying are framing this like she's trying to get rid of the restaurant meals program altogether, which is what I thought when I opened the bill and read the text myself. I'm not a lawyer, but it's pretty clear that she's not scrapping the entire hot foods program, which at least is comforting because I know a lot of you here on this channel rely on that to be able to get hot, nutritious food. So I was really surprised to see that in the text of the bill that I read, that wasn't her intention. She's not completely dismantling the program like a lot of these news reports are saying. If it passes, it will fundamentally change how the program works, but it won't completely erase it, which is at least somewhat comforting. So the McSCUSE Me Act here would keep restaurant meals program access for those who are homeless, elderly, and disabled, but it would remove automatic eligibility for their spouses, which, to be fair, kind of makes sense. Some of the states that have enacted the restaurant meals program already said that in order to be eligible, both spouses had to be unable to cook or prepare food at home. And in at least one of the states that I've reviewed, they said that there couldn't be any other household members in the household that could prepare food either, because then they wouldn't need to use the restaurant meals program provision. So that probably wouldn't change a lot of eligibility in a lot of states. However, the big change that it would make is that it would kick most fast food and quick service chains out of the program altogether. So no more Subway, no more McDonald's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, Domino's, so on, because they want to shift the purchases toward grocery stores and retailers that sell hot prepared foods. So I'm not a lawyer, but when I read through the bill, the language seemed pretty clear to me. It specifically says that participating locations would need to be, quote, a retail food store that operates a prepared food section, hot bar, or deli counter, end quote, and, quote, is not primarily engaged in the sale of quick service or fast food items, end quote. They also said that any meal sold under this bill would have to contain at least one fruit or vegetable and at least one protein. Now, I do find this kind of interesting just because of all the research that I've done on the restaurant meals program over the years. So this bill as written would stop Subway, for example, from being able to accept SNAP benefits, but it would allow you to just go eat fried chicken all day at your local grocery store chain. I'm not a nutritionist, but it seems to me like I've seen a lot more fast food type options at my local grocery store than I have somewhere like Subway, right? Because they've got all like the fried food in there and different things like that. So not entirely sure that this is the win that they think it is, but that's just me, right? I can understand why they would want to do this. I'm just not sure that the current wording is going to achieve the goals necessarily that they have laid out there. But I guess one of the things that can help figure that out is the fact that they also want to require annual state reports showing the number of vendors, number of restaurant meals participants, and the total amount spent at each establishment. So we'd be able to see how much of that money is going to, say, well, I guess in this case, it wouldn't tell you how much was going to Subway or McDonald's because those wouldn't be participating anymore. But in theory, it would give some more information on how this program is being used. Now, what we know so far is that the McSCUSE Me Act has only been introduced. It still needs to clear committee, pass both chambers of Congress, be signed by the president to become law. I'm not super optimistic that that's going to happen in a timely fashion. So I don't think this is something you necessarily have to worry about right now. However, we do know that a lot of different changes have been proposed to the SNAP program lately. So it is important to keep tabs on these signals as they come up, just so that you can kind of see what's going on in Congress and what direction they're trying to take with your benefits. So with that in mind, let's dive into some other things that you need to know about SNAP right now. Oregon is in the process of launching a restaurant meals program. I don't know if this bill is going to get in the way. If it doesn't advance, then it probably won't. We'll see what happens there. Wisconsin has also introduced a new bill to restrict what can and can't be purchased with SNAP benefits in their state. They want to limit the purchase of chips, candy, and soda. Now, we know that 12 other states are also in the process of restricting what can and can't be purchased with SNAP, and those changes are supposed to start going into effect on the 1st of January as we move into the new year, and we will be updating you on what states are going to see those restrictions, how they're going to be enacted, and so on as we get more information on that. In the meantime, the USDA has issued new guidance informing states that it's time to get working on enacting those new work requirements added under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. They answered this whole Q&A about, when was this supposed to go into effect? When is the end of what did they call it? The held harmless period and different things like that. And the USDA's answers were very clear. They said the variance exclusion period ended on November 1st. There's no way to extend that. They need to get on it. And if you're worried about those work rules, I would encourage you to go watch the video that we put out last week about who is affected by those and how to get an exemption, because we broke all that down for you in a very clear and easy to understand way. Now, just remember, if you're looking for a quick way to make a little bit of extra money, our sponsor Free Cash is amazing. Their app will pay you to play games, test new apps, and take surveys and more. So I'd encourage you to go check that out. And don't forget to check out our other videos, especially that one on work rules, for more ways that you can get help. And I'll see you there.